rebuilding, right? They're rebuilding. They're saying they're not rebuilding, but that is two pillars that you're just.
Those two guys are that team. They're that pulse. They're the heart. They're all the cliches of what guys are for a team.
Obviously, there is some frustration.
Just had a ton of respect for Bobby. He's going to have a huge market. If you're a team out there that's a borderline contender, you're selling your soul to try to bring him into your locker room. Not only because he's going to make 130 tackles, but just the presence that he's going to bring to your defense and your team. You need guys like that. There's no amount of money that's too much for guys like that.
If you're Bobby Wagner and you want to win a championship, you want to stick it to your former team, those are your two options. What better place to show off than the Los Angeles Rams?
I like this.
It's been a very interesting offseason for the LA Rams, and it's been really fun to watch what a team who has gone all in tends to do once their all-in season is done. How can you be more all in than the fact that you don't have any first-round draft picks to trade for star players? You're absolutely capped out, and you have multiple good defensive pieces, but there doesn't seem to be a huge means of adding additional talent. Well, it seems like the LA Rams had something up their sleeve, and things are about to get really interesting in the NFC West. Now, before we get to the content, once again, guys, we are pushing a brand new channel, Flight Mike TV. On this channel, I usually discuss general commentary that pertains to stuff outside of sports, and right now we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on their notifications on that channel, in addition to turning on their notifications and subscribing on this channel. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The NFC West used to be one of the most competitive divisions in all of football. And the reason I'm saying that is because each and every single team in that division was competing for a playoff spot. This past year, we saw 3 of those teams make it into the NFL playoffs, and the Super Bowl champion ended up coming out of that division. Each of these teams are in significantly different places than others. For example, the LA Rams went all in. They realized they had a brilliant mind in Sean McVay. They had a remarkable defense with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, which they paid a hefty price for Jalen Ramsey when they traded for him a couple years ago and extended him shortly after. But through it all, they were always very creative with figuring out a means to get more talent to play with Aaron Donald throughout the lifespan of his career. I mean, even pre-Jalen Ramsey, they signed Ndamukong Suh for a year and put him next to Aaron Donald. That was terrifying. They traded for Dante Fowler in the middle of the season, a former top 3 pick. That was interesting to watch. They recently signed Leonard Floyd last offseason to a huge contract extension as well. And it seems like year after year, they would bring in hired muscle after hired muscle after hired muscle to team up with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay piloting the offense, all you really needed was to ensure that the defense would hold it down. And that was a pretty good recipe for success. This past year, they saw the epitome of that success when they traded for Von Miller in the middle of the season, only giving up a couple of mid-round draft picks, rode the terrifying pass rush of Aaron Donald and Von Miller, with Jalen Ramsey captaining the defensive back unit with the underrated Darius Williams as well, and ended up winning a Super Bowl. And the question remained, okay, this team has no cap space whatsoever. They have free agents like Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., and some question marks on the roster that they need to fill. What is this team going to do next? Well, the first thing they did was they signed Allen Robinson, who has been going through a very difficult past 4 years with the Chicago Bears, when he signed a big contract with the Bears, and as a result, his production took a tumble because he didn't really have consistent quarterback play or a good head coach. And more recently, following that, they traded Robert Woods to the Tennessee Titans, a player that is coming off of a season-ending ACL injury. And finally today, they just gave the Seattle Seahawks the greatest middle finger of all time. You see, a couple of weeks ago, the Seattle Seahawks absolutely shocked everyone when they decided to cut ties with Bobby Wagner. They didn't even try to trade him for a late round draft pick to ensure that they never have to see this individual again. He was just released straight up and outright. To give you an idea, Bobby Wagner is still a tremendous player in the NFL. And if you want to just go based off of Pro Football Focus grades, this past year, he had a 71.8 overall on Pro Football Focus. It's not what it used to be in 2020, but he's still fairly serviceable, but he was owed a ton of money. He wasn't getting any younger. He's going into his age 32 season, and the Seattle Seahawks are rebuilding so they could use as much cap space as humanly possible, especially after they traded Russell Wilson. Well, the LA Rams seem to be in a position where they need to fill that void that Von Miller left by going to the Buffalo Bills, and it seems like they were able to officially do it because according to Richard Sherman, who, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Sherman is a part-time NFL insider, he tweeted out that the rich get richer. You lose future Hall of Famer at Von Miller and gain future Hall of Famer B. Wags. The Ravens made a last-minute push, but the reigning champs at Rams NFL were too good to pass up, which is pretty much implying that Bobby Wagner is joining the LA Rams. Ian Rappaport confirms this by saying the Rams finally get linebacker Bobby Wagner. He confirms a huge addition. Now you might be wondering, how much money is this individual making? Well, according to Tom Pelissaro, new Rams linebacker Bobby Wagner is getting a 5-year, $50 million deal that's worth up to $65 million with incentives on the agreement first reported by former teammate and part-time NFL insider Richard Sherman. My initial reaction to this is the salary cap is clearly not real. I don't know how on earth the Rams were able to clear up the cap space in order to sign Bobby Wagner, but I feel like the opportunity to join the LA Rams was too good to pass up for Wagner. I mean, you're placed in a situation where you're going to be playing with future Hall of Famers in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. You're joining a remarkable culture that's expecting to win a Super Bowl or hopefully repeat as champions, and your experience is going to be extremely valuable on this roster. On top of that, you get the opportunity to dominate your former team twice a year. I mean, you are in the same exact division as the Seattle Seahawks, which should be very gratifying to face off against, considering the fact that the Seattle Seahawks didn't even notify Bobby Wagner that he was being released with respect. So this gives Bobby Wagner 1, money, 2, an opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl, and 3, a great opportunity for revenge twice a year, where I expect him to absolutely crush the Seattle Seahawks, considering the fact that this is a rebuilding team. The LA Rams get a player that can easily slide in next to Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, who could be the captain and the brains behind that ferocious defense and could fill the void that Von Miller left, although not necessarily as a pass rusher, but in terms of football IQ, which is what the Rams would need in this instance. Let me know in the comment section down below, how do you feel about this, especially if you're a Seahawks fan? How do you feel about the way that the Seattle Seahawks said goodbye to Bobby Wagner and now he's in the same exact division as you guys? I'm personally really happy for Bobby Wagner getting a big contract going to LA, and it should be really exciting to watch this upcoming season. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.